다시 들래? All right, so welcome back from lunch. You remember Marge was telling you all about sickle cell disease before the break.
The chila parsing hola marpet ki khansula the sorip tapungi korleshe was.
So we like to use sickle cell as an example because it's just a little more complex, and so it represents life better.
The thanda sorip tapung kor ditis chinyok sin chen ro jures. Di khare sungyo la na ngaran su gi mize to dan di chikte cha dures. Di tapung.
We spent a lot of time talking about variation and about things being good or bad for the organism, helping them to survive.
The thanda kebar yue jura nanglo la manda yue digi ani kengwe din chu chune khandes chitu we me di da dewa cha gi res nanglo la variation kebar di yos kengi.
But life is almost never that simple. It might sound like it's better for the cheetah to have bigger muscles and be able to run stronger, but having big muscles means you have to eat more food to maintain those muscles.
The Karina Sama di Yagare di Yagamarilla Taju Chakabu Chaguris, that and the Sig do Chida do Chashawinas, and Koran to that Shani Kakaski chair and the Digaski Yoga Yukturil and Yaga Dojita Chaguris. In a Shani chair Guyuna, Tana she Sege Digas Mambu Suguna language Chaguris.
And that's generally the case in life. It's not simple. There's often a benefit and also a disadvantage, and you have to weigh the two to see what's going to happen.
Chesa tang arasu misenal sangwa di tenderos cha dures kebe yo na shi de na shi ni so like the kebe meo niga nyam dures.
Something that's an advantage one year might be a disadvantage next year.
Ta thyan na shi thalo ro cha sha ina logic kebe yo ina lo jema dila kebe meo de yungru was.
So the cheetah with big muscles, in a year where there's not much food to eat, it's really important to be the fastest one so you can catch the food. But when there's a lot of food around, it might make it harder for you.
Tadila chita thanda sigrik de se manga saguires kuran gyoga che thana shi rida gya uiras dipa shad ju se che de chita di gyoga gudugala kuran sege dhana shi manga subuna lingua chaguires.
So is the case with sickle cell. Marge told us that if you have 2 sickle cell alleles, it's very bad and you might die.
Bila dunya ne Marge ki kiranzo la dishe gyasa res thanda sorip tagundo cha shauna es chunga ni yo ina nyanga chau che ani midi thonga gi nyanga erlan she res.
But it can be very good to have 1 allele of sickle cell because it can protect you against malaria.
Ine thanda sorip tabungi elil chig yo ina es chunga di chig yo ina elil nine di keben yores kaisna malaria ni sungyo chigres la ngo ni she ros.
So what will happen over evolutionary time in an area where there's a lot of malaria? Will you see an increase in the sickle cell allele frequency because it protects against malaria, or will it decrease because the sickle cell individuals die?
Ni kiranzo samlo na khari dos thingi dos thanda thio di kharshasna thanda saja chigla malaria naza mangbu yonge naza di saja jimbai na sakudi di nanglo la ni member do ta waina khande dojil ha di res di thanda sorip thabung yogi ngi mirik dil hagre yana sorip thabung mengi mangro dugre yana nyungro dugres di theorish. It will be more.
Let's find out.
Tangonzo che gosti.
So we'll do a simple experiment. So I'll give you a cup. And in the cup are different beans. Yellow beans will represent the non-sickle cell alleles. And green beans will represent the sickle cell alleles.
The dinganzo takche tak deuji che res. Dina la khari urso ina tanganzo semari chik jamgu res chik seu res. Ani seu di khari sungyur la ina yellow is sickle cell, right?
Green is sickle cell, yellow is not.
Jamgu di khari sungyur la ina ni tanda sorip thabung di sungyur res. And servo di khari sungyur la ina namgyu gyunde gi thabung res.
Your starting population has 75 yellow non-sickle cell beans and 25 sickle cell green alleles.
Ta thambo gozu du khaju gugur la ina tanda di khari la na gyunde gi thabung di cha de ro. Di tanda dinala seu de ro. Di indu di khaju gugur la na dunju deunga. Ani chunga di khaju gugur la na es chunga di sorip thabung di chungu res ro di tanda jambu de ro. Di khaju kor la na nyishanga gugur res.
So we have 100 alleles in our starting population, And if we're talking about people, how many people are we talking about with 100 alleles?
Ta thanda nga zo midinal chi ge ras thanda di allele ke je shedu gala gya res minal cha shana khaju chai res ta 100.
So how many alleles do I have for the sickle cell gene?
Ta nga ro cha sha na ngi gi rigze nala ani sorip thabung di rigze khaju allele khaju res. Khaju nisanga 25.
How many mothers and fathers did it take to make me?
Ta ma da pha khaju gugu res nga suela chimichik suela ma da pha khaju ma khaju gor pha khaju res one father and a mother.
Okay, one father, one mother.
46. So
I'm a very special person. Okay, so how many copies of each gene do I get from my mother and how many copies do I get from my father?
Ta mani ani rigze gi ta shu di khaju ragres thana shi phani khaju ragres so 50%.
Okay. So when we talked about pea plants and we did our Punnett squares, why did I put 2 peas on the top?
Ta dango senjang ko la Punnett tusu di serwas di sedu gala gang la pi che ta chunga ji tiswas pi ni harsin seres di. One represents one from the mother and the other allele from father. Okay, this one is from mother and this one is from father.
Okay, so this one is from the father and this one is from the mother. And the mother can either give this one or this one, right?
Ta amadila di ragre yana di ragres amani chungya jura allele yana di chungura yana di chungures. Dini kharung ji chunguras.
So the mother's only going to give one allele to her offspring for this gene.
Chezanta rigze di keche shio na ta rigze chik kor shigo ra thanda di la du digi allele chik pula duroas. Yes.
It's the same for humans. For every one of my, say, 30,000 genes, I have 2 copies. One I got from my mom and one I got from my dad.
Ta thanda rigze ta waina ngarando chasha na thisum suroas dinang lu lan ta waina rigze allele ta waina allele chik khane ni rawar lana dashi di mani ragyo che allele shemba di phani ra roas.
Does that make sense?
Sewa chaswes. Yes.
Okay. So, if we have 100 alleles, how many alleles does each person get for this sickle cell gene?
Ta thanda nganzola allele gya res ra allele gya ni en thanda sorip thabung chaya gi naza jura dilan allele khaju gugu res. Allele khaju gore la ordi. Kari ngapchu, tanggal ngapchu, gyaja ngapchu, 50%.
Okay, okay. Let me ask it in a different way. We all have the sickle cell gene in us.
Ngaranjo changme gi rigze nalta na thanda sorip thabung gi rigze diyo res.
Most of us have 2 healthy copies of the gene, not the disease copy.
Dila du nganzo dashu dinalta na ni tai ros ko thanda dashu di khari cha de lana thangbu yungi dashu di cha de res naza yungi di mares.
Okay, so I have 1 copy of the sickle cell gene from my mom and 1 copy from my dad.
Ta thanda nganzo sorip thabung cha cha na dashu chik khane ni ragyo la na mani ra res chik phani chung res.
Each of those is what we call an allele. An allele is one version of a gene.
Ta di nika la thanda ni shera chik mani le jo chik phani le jo di nika la har lagyo la na allele lagyo res dila du rigze gi number minda di shi res dini.
Okay, so I have 2 sickle cell alleles in me.
Ta ngara do cha sha na sorip thabung di ni ros allele.
And each of you has how many sickle cell alleles in you?
Ta ngara do ni khiran jo cha sha na khiran jo khajo res sorip thabung gi allele 2.
Okay. Going back to here.
Ta diga le rangja indas.
So we have 100 alleles in our population, our village of people.
Ta tanda nganzu gi thonsep ji yo che di nang lo mimbo nang la allele khajo yor la na allele gya res.
How many human beings must be in that village?
Ta allele gya yor la ra ta thonsep din la mi thanga jo na mi khajo chagi res. 50.
50. Yay. Okay, we have 50 people to begin with.
Ta allele gya yor la na thonsep din la mi ngap chu chagi ros.
Okay. We want to see what happens after 1 generation of living in this environment where malaria is prevalent.
Ta dende khoriu dende jina la malaria naza yonge imbinas ani rab jema jora dil khandis chungu res.
So one by one, you will pick 2 alleles, 2 beans out of your cup to represent one of your villagers.
Dil du kiran su gita porba ni yora chik seo chik bombo yora dende allele dams allele ni ge thanda mi chik chungu ros.
With me so far?
Seo cha sos.
Okay. So you'll pick 2 beans. If you get 2 green beans, 2 sickle cell allele beans, your person dies.
Ta ni damgro ni ka dira wa na jangu khare chungu re thanda sorip thabung du chungu ros as chunga ni ra res dila du gala mi di thungu res.
If you get 1 yellow and 1 green, 1 normal and 1 sickle cell allele, your person lives. They don't get sickle cell disease, and even if they get malaria, they survive it.
Ta kiran su lingro aporbani dilendu kesi seo chik da jangu chik ra wainas ta dila du gala di jangu chik ros kuran malaria naza na waine ge thung mares pura thambu res bidi.
If you get 2 yellow beans, 2 healthy alleles, we have to see that person doesn't get sickle cell disease, so they survive, but they might get malaria.
Ta thanda sebu ni ra waina ta gyunde thabung ni cha de ros kuran la thanda ngajo sorip thabung ge nedi yo mares ine kuran khari chungsir la waina kesi tugdang di malaria khingi tugdang di so ya waina kuran kangi thesi res na si res.
To see if they get malaria, we'll flip a coin, so they have a 50-50 chance of getting malaria or not getting malaria.
Ta dina la ngajo malaria nagi mare la jore dita la ngajo thamga yugu ya di yuwe dress.
If we get this side of the coin with the 2 fingers, they don't get malaria and they live.
Ta thanda juk juya tamkhala juk dikesi ra waina ani malaria nagi mares midi ani derong tu mares thambu digi res ra.
But if for our yellow bean person, we flip the coin and they land on the 3-headed lion, they get malaria and they die.
Kesi ta dikap su ni ra chungsi ta sirung ta waina chi kharu lana kesi di juk di ra waina malaria di nagi yo mares ani midi thambu res kesi go di ra waina stamka yugni ani midi malaria nani midi shio di chungyu res.
Does it make sense so far?
The digas padu seo chaselas chegodi.
Okay, so let's get Marge to play around. All right, so Marge, pick 2 beans to represent your first villager.
Oh, ta thanda thongse ba thangbo de ni chungyu urdas mi chum ni dame res ni di.
Okay, what's their genotype? Yellow. She picked this person.
Ta Margaret ki dam ros khran la khari ra la na sema seo ni ra res seo ni la du gala che ni di ros di es che ni dres.
This is malaria, I know, right?
Yeah. they got malaria and they die.
ta sema seo de raw na ta dit khari me ta ora dira du gala kuran la di go di rasnos go la du gala malaria nagi ores la jere mi chitungi di rasu.
So I put them in the dead cup.
Oh, dead cup. Okay.
ta de rong si jo chama ya porba dina lus ti chama ta gya da shi sare la de kubda shi da di res.
Okay, let's have Marge pick another villager.
ta ya chonse ba ni ba din das.
You lost a villager.
Here, no, yes. Yellow again.
Yellow, yellow?
Yellow.
Okay, she got yellow, yellow again.
Enker engel di seo ni rason san di chagi ras.
She got the hands. They live.
ta di go di juk di ras ra chugu di juk di chagi ra di rason san ni ti chonse ba di thar res.
All right, so put them in the happy cup. Oh, sorry.
ta porba lo sha sa chik shi sa jo re chik soni chinge.
And Marge would do that for all 50 of her villagers until everybody either survives to the next generation or dies.
and di chi ta mingap chu ra mingap chu diga ji changma tai res changma ta chhe jelani khagas digi me khagas te rong chi me di ani ha bu res.
So we know that our starting population has 3-to-1 ratio of our alleles. Let's see, what do you think will happen to our ratio after one generation in this scenario?
ta thangbo go chu de nganjo la khaji la wa na dur wa na dab chi le dab sum manga di go chu ras go chu de elil di ta wa na ta di jel rab thangbo la ni khandes gyo du me di ta was.
Anyone have a hypothesis?
ta rab thangbo la khari chagi res di ni nyam do te wa na ra mingap chu ra elil di ta wa na rab thangbo la khande do ji chagi res khaje ngapchu khaje 시자직 손배 1:4 ratio
Oh, 2-to-4?
다 간디를라스 디 그래 지 간디를스 다디 So do you mean that out of 100%, 25% is suffering from that disease and 75% is healthy?
These are the number of alleles. So we have 25% of our alleles are sickle cell. We don't know yet how many in our population have sickle cell disease until we pick our 50 people out of the cup.
Naza yume haku mares thanda khaisna di kharelana elil chungyores elil di surip thabung yungi gi elil jura di chungyores di gynden thabung dires ta naza yume ta dini treni tayra di nganju dini thongse ba di tamgi yos di ta du kala ani elil mi ti du naza yume haku ruas
tamse da di kaja
no thanda di dunju donga di khare seu dira di jangu dira thangbo go chu du seu din donga da jangu nischanga lu shera di ni nganju ni len ta yo di so there are 50% chances.
Well, I think it's hard to predict what we'll see in the next population.
Oh, that ngaju ngomba che khabu doasti che jangaran ju ta hosti khari chungu me di.
So let's do our experiment, and once you've done all of your villagers, count the ones that survived to the next generation and tell me how many yellow and how many green beans.
An keran su thanda chegu di cha sa jela mi khagas thongse ba khagas de rong chisha khagas la sha lai jura di ta ras an dinala ani sema seu di khajul ha du thanga di del thiro chis sema jangu di khawas la medina thiro chis
Make sense?
seu chas yes
Okay, let's try our game. Split up into small groups again, and we'll pass materials around.
and di ruga na nai se ruga chunju suro chis
That DNA sequence on the piece of paper, hand it to somebody else. That person has the vote on table, and then they make beams on a string for their amino acid. That was an idea I had. I don't know, I have to go check the lab. Do you think they understand? I also have a lot of confusion. So when I started, I was like, okay, so we have 75 yellow beans and 5 green beans. So we have 100 alleles in our population. How many people do we have? I found a video of DNA targeted I just found like a molecular. I think maybe tomorrow we could start. It was like emptiness is
먼저 봐도 이유를 막 다시 지용이 되듯이 상황 먼저 봐도 이유를 이제 지금 나만
take 2 beans out at a time. Yeah.
이 점거 유에도 정말로 유고요 정말로 유고요 정말로 유고요 말 가야잖아 봐 니일레나 하래 니일레나 시사라 니 독장소 얘기하면 계좌고로요 말아 시사라 니 시사라 니니 임바이나 니 엘팍사라 니 독장소 얘기하는 식마라 가야는 에스충아 되어라 니 점거 유고요 말 니니 하래 체원이라 두고라다 당부레스 이네 독장소 얘기 말레리아 나와나 시여라 제사다 말레리아 내도 내고도 때라 아마도 점거 유에 니니를 유고요 말에 디 하래 세원이라나 신이 점거 유에들이 셰바니 유고요 말 kelai
Just want to make sure you get 2 green, there's no flip, that person's just dead.
다 계시 캐난소에 단다 제보 체요 가서 당분이 니 링드로아 니 링도가 계시 정군이 라와이나스 미디 데롱치기라 시사 레스티
1 green, 1 yellow, that person goes into your alive cup.
다 정구직당 세고직 라와이나스 단다 뜬도가라 안 미디 카치글라나 셈보 데 레스라니 디 포르바디나 루에 레스
This one's gone into your dead cup.
디 미 데롱치기 포르바지 수여라 디나 디 레스
If it's too yellow, that's when you flip and you see whether they live or die.
Ta kesi sevoni rawa na ta diga su shini tamga de URS cause fembu de do sena de rong sing do di tares.
Okay.
Did you guys finish? Wanna write your results up on the board? So yellow and green.
survival right.
Survivors, yeah. Yellow and green survivors. Okay, if I did my math right, those are our final numbers. And if you remember, we started with a 3-to-1 ratio.
Tingi dos thangbo go chu du gala durjang dita hoena tapsum da dapchi ruas.
And now we're at around 1.9 to 1.
Ta thanda dina ta du gala chik the gu ani chik chag dos.
How should we interpret that? What happened in this one generation?
Ta thanda kran zo dita hoena dishi khandes keges and rap thangbo la khari chung res. Khachire sumcha chik dikhare sumcha chik shidus sumcha chik shidus ra shicha chik sumcha chik re shicha chik. Okay, a quarter of the population is dead by now in the first generation.
Yes, a lot of people died.
Res ani mi mangbu thong res.
Did we have evolution? Did we have evolution?
Manzo dinal pelgyur yor res.
And why yes?
Kharjni res ngu yes. Pelgyur chung yor la ra chung res ra ani khandes lag res kharchi mes. Rizgi yor to re because there is a change in genes.
Yes, perfect. A change in allele frequency over time. We had evolution.
And the allele ki duchu jura tuju ma do gala dina yor dos was the res.
Which allele changed? I mean, what happened?
Duchu tanda allele khandi yor do res dinala. Khandi So both the alleles have changed.
Which allele increased in frequency and which allele decreased in frequency?
The doshu ta na ro allele khandi manga do do khandi nyunga do dos. Khari manga do do chode. The big S frequency of that allele has increased.
The
Capital S.
capital S increased and little s decreased?
The rest S cheo di manga do doshu ta na allele di doshu manga phar che kana shi di chara la US. Yes. Mare. Okay, some say this has increased.
Okay, so let's look at this. So how many groups did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 groups to start with. Each group had 75 alleles.
Ta tanda ngazu dina ruga khazu irla na ruga chubdin dus. Ani chubdin din zo thangbo gochu du gala thangma dom bai nasra.
So we started with 1,275 big S alleles.
Ta thangma dom bai na ruga thangma gaji S cheo di khazu irla wa na chikdong ni ge dunju donga yores.
And 425 little S alleles.
Ani allele chunga ji do S chunga di jangu dira di khazu irla wa na ruga thangma gaji dom bai na shibya ni senga yores.
We can also write this as a percentage. Do you know percentages?
Ta di gyachai gang la thina che yoras gyachala na shingi yoras. Shingi US. Yes.
Okay, so 75% and 25%.
Ta gyachala ma pa bai na gyacha dunju donga di chai roas gyacha nyush senga di roas.
After our one generation, we were left with 561 and 299.
Ni rab chi gi jala ta du khaju ra la na onzo seu di khaju la na ngab je thujure ji ani jangu di ni je gurju gurgu ra roas.
So this is 65% and 35%.
An di thanga di gyacha na pa bai na gyacha thujure nga che ani jangu di ani gyacha sumju songa cha dos.
So before, for every green pea, you had 3 yellows. Now it's not, it's barely 2. It's not even 2 for every 2 yellows for every green.
Ta ni thangbo gozuk du jangu chi gyo du sebu sum yoras gyachal pa bai na ro ni sang de din dongaras. Ta thanda di charta wa na jangu chi la seu ni ra la marala do chag dos seu ni ra la dos.
So, which allele increased in frequency and which decreased in frequency?
Ta doshu na ta wa na allele khandi gi doshu phar do khandi chashas. Chunga di phar do chag do. Doshu ta na okay. Now the small s has increased.
Yeah, this one increased and that one decreased.
Vesta allele gi doshu ta wa na s chunga di phar yores ani chewa di ma cha yores.
It increased because whenever it was paired with a healthy allele, there was no question about liver diet, it just lived.
Kaina na thanda ngazu chune chigi yor la wa na ani di thungu yo maras an cheza chune chine rang di yores mi di.
I have another question for you.
Ani thiwa shimba chigi yores thanda.
If we did this experiment again and again and again, and we continued with our village, would this increase and increase and increase until we got to 100% little s?
Ta thanda chego chi do kyar ni kyar tu che de wa na digi gachas do phar ni ta kyar ni kyar che di ra chego di che gap so di gacha di phar ni gacha gacha gi res s chungwa di. Yes.
All right. Let's do a debate.
Oh, ta di la Doeguling jik chegos.
So you say increase. I'll ask the question, what happens when you pick 2 green beans out? What happens to that person?
Ta thiwa jig yosa jangu ni kerang gi lewe ka su jangu ni le wa na mi di khari chig yores. The person dies.
Okay, so if we had only green beans, what's going to happen to my villagers when I pick them?
다 정부 경가 라와이나스 안기기 탄다 디 총세버든 줄 가르치레스. All of them die.
So do you think that we're going to go up to 100%?
대산다 키로즈 삼발레 디 게제 갸바도 두레 삼구도에스. No.
No? Okay, there's consensus that they think no?
그냥 정말 매 룩마레 숨구요에스. 게제 갸 차기 마레라이. 차기 마레라 차기 레랑에 왜 말아? Okay, all of them say it won't.
I'll say no. Okay. I agree. This might increase for a while, but it can't go all the way to 100%. That would be very bad.
this parsi resra in a gaja gabadu rumares.
What do you think would happen if we did one more generation? Would it increase at 35, stay at 35, or go back down?
Tadi rab thangora rab niwala ma draw inas tadi gaja ramcha dire samgudu yana fargire samgudu yana chagire samgudus fargire it will increase. Okay, it may increase or decrease, we cannot say.
Shall we do it?
Yangyo chige sangarosidi tachidi chimbe rab niwala dre. Yes.
Okay. So take just your survivors, just the beans in the happy cup, just the 29 and 21, for example. Do one more generation.
Tangbu inge diga jichipu ne res. They don't see you the papier raw probably. They don't tanda tsune chinge dichipu jidam ne kera taro chis.
So pick from this. Now you have the second generation. Pick from their survivors.
The kind they don't chinge chinsa res ra. Tsune chinge jura. Tinzo rab chima dre ra. Di nanglo tani ani keja hazus khazus li taro chis.
All right, I think we got everybody. So we have 361 and 177.
Ta thanda di S cheo di sumja tukji rechik che S chunga di gada dunju dundu rodos.
Which works out to 67% and 33%.
An gacha la mapa baina di khaju S cheo di khaju chegla na tukju rebdun chegdos. S chunga di sumju sosum chegdos.
So I'd call this staying about the same.
Ta tadu gala peje do redos mendi datana.
So given the same environment, our allele frequencies stayed the same, and I'd kind of expect that if our environment stays the same, we'd continue to see around 65, 67, and 33, 35.
Dilo du koryuk chik rang la le dewana Allele ki doche jura di rangja roj de digi ras. Dilo du tukju ranga tukju rebdi sumju songa sum sosum dinde digi res.
But if the environment changes and maybe the chance of malaria is not 50-50, maybe 70% chance of getting malaria, I would expect our allele frequencies to change again.
Dilo du koryu rangja imba ina Allele ki doche di rangja digi res la ra. Koryu lo duwa draw ina ani Allele ki doche en duwa du res. Pe shawa ina ta malaria naza nyel ta ina gaja ngapchu ngapchu roas. Malaria nazal mang roto ni gaja dunjus pharo ina duwa du roas. Ani Allele ki doche di la duwa du res.
So I wouldn't say that this allele is better than that allele. I wouldn't say that this is the ideal allele frequency. It all depends on the environment.
Dila du tang tanda ngi she di allele di yagare di yagamare lan di kebatungu mes dhana shi gaja di digas kugu yorlan tataj digi yorlan di shi mes di kharila ralu yorlan khorila ralu yores di mangnung di.
So that's the best allele frequency for that particular environment.
Ta danda allele ki docho ta waina di ta khoryu dila di yashore la jura di latures.
So in environments that stay the same, our population can stay the same.
Khoryu rangja de waina dhana shi sogdu di rangja di yores.
So sharks have been the same for a long, long time because they're well adapted to their environment and their environment hasn't changed that much.
Dilo du shark do cha shawana kuran so sogdu ta wana gyo dro mares rum tujuring bu shurangja de yores. Khais na kuran so khoryu la tungyur ya bu chen khoryu di gyo chi dro mares cheza shark gi sogdu di rangja ste de yores gyuring bul.
But organisms with different environment and different pressures have to keep changing to keep up with that environment.
Chezang khoryu gyo dro na nenshu gyo dro res dile tene ani thanda sogdu gi thanda nanglo allele gi docho dil gyo dro res.
Okay, so this was a fun exercise. Hopefully it's helping things sink in a little bit. When we come back tomorrow, we saw there were a ton of questions on DNA, genes, and alleles, so we'll talk about that some more.
Ta thanda chego dikhiran zo to chung yogi res sangi jinda ta chodin thangbu jora digap su khiran zo ingwe ni thiwa mangbu judwas di khari thorish lena DNA che ani rigze che ani allele da de gar rishas andi sangi chodin thangbu ma thibos
Tujise.